I will open today's Mistech webinar with a verse for America. May our feeling penetrate into the center of our heart and seek in love to unite itself with the human beings seeking the same goal, and with the spirit beings who, bearing grace, strengthening us from realms of light and illuminating our love, are gazing down upon our earnest, heartfelt striving. It is with a heavy heart that I open today's Mistech webinar. So many thousands of people in the Los Angeles area have lost their homes. Two Waldorf schools and a Theosophical Society have been destroyed by fire. My three kids went to Pine Hill Waldorf School, and it burnt down twice, and fire destroyed the first Goetheanum. Life is full of tragedies, but it keeps moving on with our human evolution towards brotherhood in what's called the sixth epoch to come. In our times, we face an increasing assortment of challenges so that we properly develop what Steiner called the consciousness soul. To help us meet these challenges, Nistech was founded. Destiny descended us deep into matter, and now even into sub-physical. Today, we deploy machines and devices with AI to lessen our labors. Ultimately, will these help or harm our human evolution? We need to keep in mind the goal of human evolution. It is not a heaven on earth we seek, but a cosmos of love out of freedom. In our descent into matter, we have had to enter into corruption of what we were given by the gods. Now we are rightfully mingling with Ahriman. Why do I say rightfully? Because the cosmic plan needs Ahriman. Evolution involves much more than just us humans. What Ahriman lacks, light, life, and love, we human beings must bring these into his existence. No other being can do that. That role has been accepted by Mani to bring this. Today, the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness comprehends it not. But even this will change in the far future. What you're about to hear may seem like a small step, but evolution typically proceeds gradually. Our speaker, Bobby Arlen, has taken quite a different path to anthroposophy than most of us. Immersed in a Californian culture foreign to many of us, he once operated a tattoo parlor. He found himself in prison 15 years ago, or for 15 years, for severely beating up a man who had raped his girlfriend. While incarcerated, the anthroposophical prison outreach reached him, and he began to read some books by Steiner. When he was able to step out of prison, anthroposophy had taken root in his soul. It still had to grow more. It kept growing as he tried to restart his life. Luckily, he kept up his studies to the point that he became so deeply moved by anthroposophy that he now wanted to start his life anew, to be born again. He then moved to Ann Arbor to establish such a new life. As Rudolf Steiner said, those who have gone deeper into the evil of Ahriman have the capacity for an even greater good. Bobby had found biography work, and then he found Mistech. as essentials for his soul transformation. Then he found a way to combine these two into a company he named In.Sight. I will let Bobby tell you about it, but before I turn this over to you, Bobby, let me ask our audience to pencil in these dates for the 2025 Mystech Conference, August 7th to the 10th. Now, you know what happens during the peak of the Perseid meteor showers, but this year that peak is on the 12th and the 13th. Our theme will be Facing the Incarnation of Ahriman. Now I turn this over to you, Bobby, and thank you so much for being here.
Sheesh. All right. Thank you for the warm up right there. Facing the incarnation of Ahriman is the next thing after this. So I guess we're adding up. So obviously it's such an honor to be here with everybody. Hearing that intro, I'm sure everyone can kind of tell that this is going to be kind of a culture shock about the things we're talking about and the work that we're trying to do, and even bringing up my biography into it, because this has to do with biography, is obviously a strong step and humbling, and it can make me emotional. So I got to get started on this. So it's really humbling to be here with you guys. So let's share my screen. And we are here. Share.
Looks good.
And we're good to go.
Looks good.
All right. So as I said, it's deeply humbling to be here with everybody. I'm gonna try to talk slow. I typically talk fast, if you know me. um, and before I start to make this about some grandiose tech innovation, or even about my struggles and all these things, I have to somehow get across that this initiative really is about human beings, right? And about you and me and everyone we keep. And this is really the beginning and the end of everything that kind of has been the drive of In.Sight. And we are really trying to step the steps right into these digital waters, right? Stepping consciously into this digital age. And I hope you will see that I have made it this far because I believe that this initiative is for you, right? This initiative, believe it or not, is dependent upon you, upon collaborative efforts, right? Upon us. How many of us feel that the effort and the art of creating counterbalances that are put into the culture is upon us, right? We know this. We had this experience, right? So let's talk about what we've been working on with In.Sight over the past year or so in R&D. And this presentation is titled Illuminating Individual Stories, Shaping Collective Change. So I can think of In.Sight as a platform designed to empower individuals to reflect on their lives more routinely and intentionally, to work with, preserve, and share their stories, and ultimately to contribute to a more meaningful cultural transformation of relationships and how we relate to one another. This presentation begins with a simple yet profound idea that we can hopefully all resonate with, is that every individual story matters. When we take the time to reflect on our experience and bring clarity to our life narratives, we illuminate not only our personal paths, but also contribute to something much larger. What we talk about as a collective stream of change, right? So in today's world, technology often feels like it distances us from ourselves and others, right? But what if it could do the opposite, right? What if it could help us reconnect, right, with our own life narratives, let's say, to begin with how we speak to our, people that we're in relationships with. Basically, it's about connecting with that, because many people today struggle to find meaning in their experiences or clarity about their life paths, right? Technology can either deepen this disconnection or serve as a bridge, right? We'll talk. Obviously, I'm teaming with things I don't want to talk about, but I'm trying to stick to the thing here. So In.Sight was created to be the beginnings of some type of bridge. So struggling to find meaning, I know I said it already, but it's a pretty big deal, I think. And I have pulled out a few of these, let's call them root causes. We have fragmented self-understanding in a lot of people. People often have difficulty connecting various life events into a coherent narrative. I did a lot of research on this. And the demands on modern life obviously leave little room for deep introspection, right, and self-discovery. a lot of isolation, right? Despite being more connected than ever, many feel a sense of disconnection from their authentic selves and others, right? And it goes on, right? Overwhelm and overload so much information. I'm bringing these things up, the things I think we agree on. We stand at this critical juncture, right? Where technology can either deepen disconnection or serve as a bridge for reflection and connection, right? So technology can either pull us away from self-reflection or provide tools to facilitate it. Social media platforms often promote surface level connections, while there's a growing need for deeper, more meaningful interactions, we know, right? And so I like this. I just like these little things I've been working on to help me visualize it too. And the main thing about even what I'm trying to talk about here, not trying to teach anybody anything they don't know, or anything like that. I'm just trying to kind of share an imagination, right? And how that imagination led to inspiration, and how the inspiration became more intuitive about what maybe needed. Why In.Sight fits this gap, right? Why this project and why this initiative I think is really important. In.Sight is purposely designed to provide a layered solution through what I call life work sessions, and I'll show you all this stuff, and lifeline features. By guiding users through biographical reflection in a natural conversational way, we help transform scattered experiences into meaningful narratives. And as these personal stories accumulate and connect, they contribute to a deeper understanding of our shared human experience. This approach doesn't just preserve individual stories, it creates pathways, right? It creates pathways. It creates pathways for, like, sometimes I don't know how to use this word for you guys, right? But it creates pathways for cultural renewal in my mind, one personal narrative at a time, right? And so this is some of the thoughts that I have on this. So before I go into sort of more technical details and demonstration of what I've been working on for you guys, I definitely want to speak on the origins of this inspiration. I was just telling Andrew about it. At least I hope to articulate how these things can arise from out of one's own spirit, right, through our own experience. And I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but although for me, all this experience that I've had, like he told you, my kind of history goes back and back, and I've been through some things I'll talk more about, but I've come to experience that the fire behind this is not I, right? It's not I who am necessarily doing this, but Christ in me. Amen. So first, I'd say that the inspiration for what would become In.Sight began in 2023, probably in an apartment. I was with my girlfriend at the time, and she doesn't really express her emotions all that well sometimes, right? Which is not a bad thing. And I always be a little bit more expressive, right? So at the time, I was grappling with questions about basically everything, right? But this is after I've been out, obviously, in the last 3 years. But I was struggling with, basically how people express themselves to each other, and the people they care about, and to how people get their stories across to the next person. And at the time, I was grappling with all this too. So how we find the words to articulate what we feel and how we connect meaningfully with others was a question to me. My girlfriend often struggled to put these emotions into words, while I've always been someone who was teeming with emotional expressions. I'm sure you can tell by now. This contrast sparked an idea one night, right? What if there was a tool that could help people structure their thoughts and reflections in a way that could bring clarity, not just to their feeling thought processes, but also how we might actually work with these in reflections, right? Enough, let's say, alongside AI, to come to a feeling of, that is how I would say it, or that is how I feel. We come to this clarity of moment. And now that we've come to this clarity, now we can actually share this with others, but now in words, right? Which a lot of people struggle to get things into words sometimes. So this tool that I was imagining would have two purposes, not just for the individual trying to work through how they would express or how they are feeling, but how they would express it to the next person, the relationships aspects, right? So I was like, okay, this can serve to the purpose that we're looking for, a kind of core purpose. The initial idea evolved into something much larger, right? And so I reflected on my life a little bit, and go here. Let's just go like this here, right? So, yeah, I grew up in California. My mom, she's the bomb. She's the coolest person and most understanding person. And my little brother, he passed away while I was inside So we're out here. And so I don't mean to be crying, man. This is such an honor, you guys. If you guys only knew, this is such a great thing. And amen, right? So I grew up in California with my mother, and she raised us, and by the time I was about 19, I had 19, 20, I had two kids already. And then at 21, I got in some trouble and got locked away. It was a split second. I was hanging out with everybody in the summer and was gone and by Christmas. And all the lives, everyone's changed, and it was what it was. And so I went through all that, right? And so, like he said, discovered anthroposophy. And I was really into it, man. You could actually maybe find some things that I've had, through the APO and things like that over the years. I was printing the newsletters and stuff like that. And thank you to Kathy, man. Thank you to Kathy for always being there for all of us and everyone that participated in APO. But it worked, man. So it found me, and I found it, and I spent years and years. And not only would I get the APO books, but I would be getting books, libraries. I would be ordering books all the time, basically. And so I would be storing up these libraries and just spending all this time in anthroposophy and all kinds of stuff. I studied all kinds of Jungian psychology, right? Of course, checked out Nietzsche, and of course, when I say I checked them out, I guess you know that I had plenty of time to really delve into them, I guess, put on the skin of the dragon of each one, I guess. And anthroposophists, I came out. So I worked with that for a long time, working really hard in those areas. And I was also really creative, right? So I really creative, I guess, maybe my whole life. But I taught myself guitar, and I taught myself how to, do everything that I could in there. Do everything that I could. I was talking to who was I talking to? Maybe I was talking to Kathy about it the other day. But being confined, really, you imagine you can't go anywhere. And so, like, there's no way, where else to kind of just like move or grow or do anything except for inwardly and what I call kind of vertically. Yeah, so you have to imagine that I was just kind of spiraling up, and I taught myself all kinds of things, and I was really artistic and lucky and a Gemini and all these different things that just led to me being lucky enough to receive things in kind of the right way and grow maybe in a good way. But I would say for this case that this period of inner striving really built up my sensitivity, right? To certain things, maybe not everything, right? I'm not super sensitive to everything, but I am some sensitive to certain things. And I feel like one of the things that I maybe became sensitive to is like the actual streams, cultural streams, and maybe of the ways that individual efforts, right? Individual efforts and self-development ripple outward into the broader cultural renewal, like really actually get into the streams, if I could put it that way. So these experiences became the foundation for creating In.Sight. These growth things that come out of me to this, right? A tool that could guide others on their own journeys of reflection and growth. Okay. Growth of In.Sight. So when I think of In.Sight as a platform around to eliminate individual stories while fostering collective change, right? It resonates with me. Because as we learn from Steiner, and something that I have carried with me for many years, is that every idea which does not become your ideal slays a force in your soul. Every idea which becomes your ideal creates within you forces of life, right? I think there should be a lot of people, I think, that know that quote. My ideal was to discover a technological solution that could support individuals in exploring their life narratives, preserving their experiences, and having this efforted action from the individual, right? And of the individual be understood as contributing to something larger than themselves, for us to be able to see that it's contributing, maybe not just we think have faith. So maybe I can start showing you what I've come up with now. Okay. So yeah, let's start with maybe start defining some terms, right? The heart of In.Sight, let's say, are 4 key features designed to guide users through meaningful reflection while keeping their stories organized and accessible, right? So the first thing we have is going to be the chat interface, which is the life work chat interface, right? The next part is life thoughts page, which I'll be able to show you. I'll be showing all these things to you guys here in about 5 seconds. We have a lifeline where actually all of your things will be saved, all of the events that you've worked on and saved or preserved and categorically and everything. And then my story feature, which I'm super excited about, is for biographical or chunks of biographical composition to help people kind of work through the biographies a little bit smoother and easier, right? And if it's okay, what I'll do is I'll share with you guys a short virtual tour, right? Of what you would see when you opened it up, just because I think it's more comprehensive. And then also, I want to share it with you so I can get some feedback. But I also we'll go through this, and then I'll open up the app itself and show you one more feature. Okay. So yeah, here we go, guys. Let's watch this right here.
So we always open up to our LifeSpace dashboard. When you first start working with In.Sight, this dashboard will seem simple, but as you continue to add to your narrative, your dashboard will come to life. With Life Thoughts, I have come to think of these as reflective modes. The chat sessions themselves are referred to as life work sessions, so we can see these as pathways.
I'm just gonna keep moving through
Here
this.
in Lifeline, we can see that a repository of our saved life events has been set up like your experience of a social feed, but these will be chronologically ordered and filterable life events. Okay. The My Story feature is one of my favorites so far. It allows you to bring together your saved Lifeline events and explore ways to format them into a coherent narrative. The style theme you select will determine how the narrative will be formatted. We will show you more on that in this guide. There's a lot to explore, I know, but for this guide, I want to show you the life work session user flow. So let's go back to the dashboard and let's just select the begin reflection option. And this will open up the quick thought modal chat window. It is simply about deciding to engage in some life work.
So yeah, we're getting into a chat.
And as we start getting our thoughts going, it will become more fluid with practice. You also see that there is the mic icon there for speech to text. You are welcome for that feature. So once you get a thought out, enter your first thoughts into the chat session, of course.
So let me just clean up some house real quick so we know where we're at. I'm showing you guys basically how the actual tool is right now, as it sits right now, and how it can actually be used right now for people to work on their biographies and actually start to work through certain narratives through this chat type of interface. And you'll see how it works right now with some more steps, and we can talk about it. But that's what I'm doing. I'm kind of just showing you this feature right here so you can understand when I speak about it, at least something to imagine, right? I don't want to just leave you out there trying to imagine something intangible. So yeah, we'll make it through a couple more of these slides, and then I'll just show you one more thing, and then we'll finish up here. Thank you.
And then let the life work begin. In.Sight is designed to ask the right questions, so you will always find another question to follow. You will start to feel the details becoming more coherent. And for now, we have set a threshold of a minimum of 5 exchanges in a session before you can request a narrative review from In.Sight. So keep the session going. I hope you can see that In.Sight is context aware and affirming, but you also see that the focus is on you and your narrative. So keep working through the session. I wanted to point out the slider progression slider here. It is waiting for that 5th exchange so that it can be of service to you.
While you're typing, could you tell us what it is you're typing in?
When I was typing, I was actually just typing in a tag that was related to the event, right? That we're reflecting on, right? So we went through the chat and we just said something. She was talking about, the person was talking about how they were about to go, they're behind stage and they're about to go through this event, right? Kind of how this event was for me, right? And it was just kind of nerve wracking. And so there's chatting about it, and then the chat interface is responding, tell me more, right? So kind of, oh, you mentioned this and you mentioned that, could you tell me more about that? And it kind of just helps you kind of get out some things if you haven't mentioned them yet, so you can actually build a more cohesive factors. And then once you just kind of are asking back and forth, it's going to give you a review of the factors that you've brought into so far, as if it was just one kind of expression, one articulation of what you said.
Okay,
And then you're going to
good.
be able to edit it if you feel like, oh, that's not how I would say it. And then you edit it. Did I answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Cool. So yeah, and then right here, like I said, you're putting the date and stuff like that. And mind you, we're thinking about this in terms of, okay, I'm trying to build my biography. Let's say I'm trying to get all these things into an ordered way that is, let's say, I'll talk about it a little bit later, that's shareable with others, right? And so I want to work through it. I want my narratives to be like this, and I'm going to talk about the events, the times, the expression, right? Everything that was kind of going, the people that were there. It's going to ask you about all that. And then it's going to say, okay, and then the way, depending on how you articulated it, right? Depending on how you articulated it, it's going to get that kind of semantic recognition, and it's going to put it into one cohesive one, like I said. And so you're also going to select,
Upload media related to the event.
Sorry about that.
Choose.
But you're going to put things in here. And when you select the life phase, anthroposophists, we might see this clearly as I've just separated them just for categorization, but also other things into 7-year segments, so that whenever somebody saves an event or is reflecting on an event, when they save it, they do save it into whatever phase it was in.
And finally, we get to save life event to the lifeline.
And we'll save it to the lifeline.
Once saved in Lifeline, you will be able to open the event. Expand to see full narrative. This concludes the quick overview of.
Okay, so I just want to give that to you guys really quick. So let's go down here, and then what I wanted to do was, guys, let me go to F11. Sorry, guys. We're gonna go next. Next.
This concludes the quick overview of In.Sight.
Yeah, no, correct. Sorry. Sorry, guys. If you could just stay right there. Thank you. All right, we're live. Let me make sure to get this back in F11. All right. So let me check. I want to show you In.Sight now. Okay. So here we go. We're gonna log in. So this is the screen. Everyone's still good. We're still good, Andrew. I think we are. So here it is. I'm gonna log in here. But you guys can see this is still in testing mode. Okay. So this isn't something that I'm like, oh, I've created this thing all by myself and I'm just gonna launch it out into the world or anything like that, right? This is something that I've been working on, and this is something that I'm going to continue to work on. And I want to show you this feature one time while we're here, and what I was talking about, the biography aspect. So here I'm going to my Lifeline, and you see there's some events that have been saved, right? And this is a demo account, but some events that have been saved, right? And that we've worked on, right? We see the narrative right here about this event, about this experience, and the tags and things that were saved. And you can see it really is about you. It's really about you storing your lives. I'll show you this too. So these life thoughts, these are what I call modals, right? And each one of these is themed. It's a themed reflection. And so you kind of come in here, and if you already know you're kind of here to work on your biography, let's say that's your intent, then you're like, okay, well, how do I want to work on it, right? Like, where do I want to kind of go and kind of get some stuff out, or get some stuff articulated and documented, right? So you just come over here and you select kind of the mode you want to go into, right? And so make sure I'm not missing anything here. Oh, okay, personal privacy, right? So yeah, okay, so yeah, and so I think I seen a question in there that asked if it was AI driven. So yes, in terms of so in terms of if I'm going to come in here and I'm going to have a discussion, right? Since my life is moving in a direction where this, right? Because I want to show you, I want to show you that it's not really, it's not the AI that we're trying to like fear or whatever the case may be. This next second event will dream about collaborative. Right? So it's not that it's here to give anybody anything that could be necessarily evil. I try to create it so it just asks questions, right? Can you share more about the Mistech event? It doesn't know anything yet, right? It has no context because that's all I've given it. And as I was continue, it would say, oh, okay, so what you're talking about is this. And then as you would go through, like I showed you right now in the chat thing, you'd get to a point where it says, okay, so let me get this fact straight so far. And then it gives you the narrative. So the AI aspect of it is really unobtrusive as much as I can at this point. Like I said, this is still the testing, okay? Need more input. But when you come over here, I want to show you guys this at least. This is the My Story feature that allows you to bring all the events that you have worked on, together. And all the tags, you can bring all these things together. You can select them one at a time. It's really kind of simple. I also show the simplicity of everything. So you can bring all those tags, right? In this case, I already selected all the events, right? And you still, you just select the events that you want to be involved in the story that you're telling, right? I'm gonna select those 4, right? I'm just looking for a chronological kind of narrative about these 4 events, together. And then it's gonna bring all those 4 events together. It's gonna read all of them, take them all into context, all the things that you brought into context, and then it's gonna put it into a single, one more kind of single document for you that you could use, right? And it's gonna have this writing, right? It's gonna have this. It's obviously going to help. I don't know if everybody's a writer. I don't know if everybody's just a natural writer. But what it's going to do is kind of put it into a way that a person could articulate the events in a way that would be conversational and relational. Is kind of the concept, right? And so in this testing way, it brought together all those events that I connected chronologically, and then told the story from one to the other, and it kind of gave context from one to the other if it had it. And so it's really for you, right? So like nobody's getting this because the only way this goes anywhere is that you download it, right? And at this point in the test, it's just going to download as a text, right? As a text. So all right. So I feel like maybe that's everything I've done so far. I got the settings for you guys. I'll be trying to hook all this up for everybody, so it's really nice. So I think somebody asked about privacy. I'll talk about the community that I'm trying to build in a second. And in the community, I plan to have a whole section dedicated to the database and in the database setup and the database ethics, right? That I think anybody can kind of jump in on, and if they're actually concerned with In.Sight or would like to see it exist, right? So maybe let's go back to the thing now. Maybe I said a lot about this. We'll go to F11. And we're gonna go next. Okay. So with all that, if I can get a drink of water. I'm really nervous, guys, because man, this is obviously, if you can imagine kind of the story of where I've been and everything, this is amazing. This is amazing. I hope you guys are enjoying and realizing this is all from the heart, man. So In.Sight, as we can see from kind of what that is, how we set it up. In.Sight transforms personal reflection into meaningful growth by guiding users through significant life events with purposeful prompts and intuitive tools, right? So through systematic documentation and analysis, right, of their own, right, and the platform reveals profound patterns in personal experiences by reflecting on them, right, helping users understand how their individual journey contributes to broader cultural development. this is the imagination, right? Or maybe this is the inspiration, right? We're right there. We're seeing that this is valuable, actually, right? And so through this process, users develop their own capacity for meaningful questioning about life, about biography, about society, right? About the other, right? So as users begin with their own life events, exploring at their natural pace, whenever you guys get on and say, you know what, I'm going to work on my biography. Each experience creates space for organic reflection and discovery. As users engage with In.Sight's thoughtful prompts, right? The idea would be that we would develop an appreciation for, right, the power of well-crafted questions, right, or just questioning, right, wondering what the answer is to things. So personal insights emerge through learning to sit with uncertainty. I think this is an anthroposophical principle that we would sit with things for a long time. So the art of questioning, right? I wrote something before my first presentation I put together that I showed Andrew was talking more about this questioning aspect, but it was just much too academic. I at least want to touch on it right here. Good, I gave that users experience and gradually internalize, whether they know it or not, while they're just going through this questioning, right? 4 dimensions of biographical questioning, maybe more. Okay, let's just go with 4. Reflective, right? Understanding past experiences and their echoes, right? In the present. Existential questioning, right? Exploring deeper meanings and life essential questions, right? Future-oriented, right? Reflection, questioning, right? Considering possibility and potential paths. Pattern recognition is a major one, right? Discovering themes that shape personal and social life, right? So through regular engagement, users develop their own capacity to form more profound questions. This extends everywhere, right? So this will extend, hopefully, right? This is the idea, right? That it would developing this profound kind of more sense for questioning, and that it unveils things. So when individuals engage in deep personal reflection, they create ripples of transformation, right? Because it's starting to get out there where now the relationships might be getting better. Now they might be seeing the world a little clearer, a little less intensive. They create ripples of transformation that extend far beyond themselves, okay? And through shared experiences and insights, these personal journeys weave together to create something like, we can imagine constellations, right? Of collective wisdom, right? Human wisdom, right? Anthroposophia and understanding, all while fostering lasting cultural development. This is the vision, right? This is the idea. This is I'm not saying that insight's the answer. I'm not saying insight's the answer. I'm saying the concept, the ideal, as we spoke about, right? So imagine virtual communities, right, where users share insights and support one another in their inward striving, right? These spaces obviously align perfectly with anthroposophical ideals, fostering freedom and individual development while nurturing brotherhood and shared endeavors, right? Of course, we are speaking about ideas becoming ideals, like I just said, right? I regularly think about how much stronger this initiative would be if our minds, right, can really come together on this, that the people, us, who think about the well-being of other people, not only as a spiritual habit, okay, but also, in our professions, right, in our practices, right, in our just lives, where our understanding of the other's narrative actually helps us be a little bit more human in our service, right? The more we can know about the person, the better, so to speak. And so for a person to be able to articulate about themselves, for you to be able to understand better about them, that's the gap, right? That's the gap we're looking at right there, right? So the real world so people that work in these practices and deal with people, obviously they love people, and a tool like In.Sight, right? It's like we already have the key, right? We already possess the key for a tool that couldn't exist until right now, couldn't come to exist until our current culture. I think that's something to consider, right? Is how we're moving forward, like I said, consciously, into the digital age, right? And together, collaboratively, right? And so I've imagined this to some degree. I'll show you. And maybe we can look at these graphics. Let me see here. Look at these ones first, I suppose. I guess it don't matter, huh? Oh my. Here we go. And maybe we can, so look at these graphics and feel how the scope of this initiative, right? Like in its actual scope, of larger scope, besides just me and this testing demo and this community that I'm trying to build for a collaboration, right? Scope. I believe that the whole life force of In.Sight at this point is dependent upon collaboration. There's the whole goodness of it, the whole everything that it could be. The good. At this point, it's come as far as I could bring it, and only collaboration will bring it life. And so, of course, without becoming too emotional, this is a formal invitation. Being able to talk to you guys about this and bring this up to you guys is because that network and that ecosystem, it needs to be, it's starting to be built, right? It's starting to come together, and people are coming together on this. And so, if you guys, anybody wants to talk about it, obviously, at the end of this, we'll talk about. I'll give you a way to get in contact with us and just join up, man, and join up and see what we got going on and check out the demo if you want and stuff like that. But I think on a less serious note, man, I want you guys to really think about, because I've really, really considered this. For those of you that value having a tool that could simply help you work on your biographies, right? To actually just kind of just help you start getting these things together. If you can imagine how much work that would be, we know. Okay. It's to help kind of start helping through that process, right? So In.Sight offers an opportunity to smoothly work through the biographical phases, right, and experiences cogently and on nonlinear paths, right, while keeping the chronology and, for that matter, the ontology for each user's ongoing life work, right? So this for me is so promising for people, especially because I've imagined what it would be like to have everyone's biographies, right? To have your biography, for not, for all of us to be able to share them, right? That's just right. Like, how many of us, I don't know about you, but how many of us have pined like over Steiner's autobiography? I don't know about you, right? But biographies are meaningful to me, and they have been for a long time, right? And maybe pining isn't the right word, but my point is that each story becomes part of a larger arc of human experience, right? Anthroposophia seems to be leading, right? That will start to weave together individual efforts into the collective stream, right? And this is cultural renewal. This is what we're doing, right? And we'll be able to see it. We'll be able to, if we're all part of it, we'll all be able to see it, right? So in anthroposophy, human development is understood as both individual and collective endeavor. We know that, right? So the inward work of self-reflection from the very center, seeking meaning in life events, right? Striving towards self-awareness is deeply personal, right? But contributes to humanity's spiritual development and evolution. And so these are some thoughts, guys. I should have used things, but we have some higher here. I at least want to show you some higher anthroposophical principles that I stick by to consider before we go too far, right? The spiritual dimensions, let's say, of biography and working with biography. And hopefully I'm not oversimplifying here. Involve the engagement of higher spiritual beings, believe it or not, right? The hierarchies in the development of humanity. Angels, right here with us. We know it. Anybody that knows me know that my angels are here with me. Angels tenderly nurture personal growth and self-discovery, intimately accompany each individual's unique life story. Archangels foster collective awareness, right? We know this, right? So in groups, when people are working together, right? We give them access, right? We actually provided a space where more work could be done. The archive, time and spirits, right? They shape pivotal transformations in human progress. And I don't know about you, but this digital age sure seems like a big step. But these tiers of these beings, right? They actually play a part in our unfolding, right? So what comes to mind, right? What comes to mind when we bring these things up? All these things, when we think about the angels and we think about actually impacting the culture, right? When people are going to start working on the biographies, I don't have nothing scripted here. I just want to express some things anthroposophically, let's say. When people start working on the biographies and they start going through the events, even if you just started doing it yourself, all of us smart ones, right? All of us ones who already know, right? Already know everything, or when we start working on our biographies, we know that we're going to start giving ourselves the best opportunity to enter into consciousness soul work. even simply, even rudimentary, even on accident, if you could do it on accident. But when you start working on the biography, uh, even in your own mind, in your own thoughts, in your own efforts, your own intentions, right? And you're building it up and you're finding all these answers, you create, what need I say more? And if people come together and if people are using In.Sight to help others, let's say if you're a practitioner, or you're folks that serve others, or you care about folks, and you say, hey man, if you use In.Sight, it'll help me to be able to kind of understand a little bit more. So you don't mind using it, and we'll talk about it. Now, whenever we start working with each other now, and then two are gathered, right, in that process. Okay. And then now let's say we have four. Now let's say we have groups of people, right? So now we know we're going to go from the angels, and immediately we start bringing the other people into working on in this way. We're going to actually engage the higher hierarchies as it expands, simply by working on our biographies. And I think this is profound. And like I said, pardon me for the oversimplification. I was trying to, like I said, expand on a vision, a vision or an imagination, an inspiration and an intuition, and kind of express. I got some other things to show you, but I want to express that through tools like In.Sight, from individuals reflecting alone to practitioners guiding others to virtual communities connecting globally, we can create opportunities for these spiritual hierarchies to work more actively with us towards cultural equanimity. That has been sitting with me for a while. So hopefully we can see the In.Sight, no matter what, is shaped by its users, by individuals seeking personal growth, right? And then extends to the relationship, practitioners guiding others, right? And communities preserving biographies as part of a collective effort, intentional collective effort. Individuals seeking tools for reflection and journaling, practitioners, right? Exploring new ways to guide clients, communities coming together around shared reflections, and those who feel called to preserve the biographies, not just for themselves, but as part of a collective tapestry of human wisdom that enriches us all, right? And so in closing, this presentation has explored how tools like In.Sight can do this, right? I believe illuminate individual stories while inspiring collective change, right? By scaling self-reflection through ethical technology aligned with anthroposophical principles, we create pathways for both personal growth and cultural transformation. It begins with each person working inwardly, but extends outward into communities and society as a whole. And this has definitely been a vision where technology serves humanity's highest ideals by fostering connection, meaning, and renewal. And by telling you guys my story, I at least wanted to show that, at least give an example or just be here with y'all, and showing that I can see the years adding up to here. And if there's a fly on the wall that could have heard conversations that I had even while I was still in, you would have heard me telling my mom that one day I would be here giving this presentation to you, trying to share what I believe is just a simple way for people to see the spirit in the world and its community. That's it, Andrew.
Wow. Bobby, thank you so much for taking us not only on your journey, but this journey into In.Sight. And you've given us a lot of insight. So we can take some questions. I've been gathering them from
Okay,
the
let me stop
chat.
sharing, right? Let me stop
Yeah,
sharing this.
you want to stop sharing.
Yep.
And there's a
Oops.
Q&A button there if you
Oh
want
my
to
gosh. One
press
second.
that, and I will try to capture those. You saw the one about
Oh my gosh. Just give me 1 second, please. Andrew, I'm sorry about that.
yeah,
I'm getting my screen's got okay, now I'm here. I'm sorry about that. And then let me
no
stop
problem.
sharing. There we go. I'm alive now.
Okay. So you saw that, I think the one question that one of the first questions about, are you using AI in that chat? And obviously, I think you are.
Hmm.
I don't know if you want to make any comment, but to me, I think this is part of what you were trying to say about making ethical use of technology.
Right, right. And I think this is a question that sits with all of us and any, let's say, anthroposophically minded person that I've spoken to about this project we've all had similar questions, right? We keep asking kind of the same questions, let's say, right? And so, in terms of I think there's a lot of mystique around it, right? I think there's a lot of things that are kind of, kind of shaded, right? But in terms of something like this, believe it or not, and in this, and I'm gonna offer a link, but I'm gonna have it completely transparent about everything that the AI is programmed with, so that we know exactly how it is processing our data. So we know what it's thinking, right? Because it's not thinking, right? It's complying with instructions.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Okay. Because that's what I love about In.Sight is that it's more along the lines, believe it or not, it's asking these questions, but it's not, and it's summarizing and it's giving narratives and it's recognizing semantics and it's recognizing entities, people. And so if you're working through your biography and you talk about Uncle Joe, in a story from whenever you were 8, and you talk about Uncle Joe from a story whenever you were 28, it's going to recognize that Uncle Joe and Uncle Joe is the same person. These are little things that are gonna that AI is has to be aware of in order to give contextual um, questions, right? Contextual breakdowns of your narrative.
Okay. You showed a pyramid at one point with the user down at the bottom, the therapist, and so on. Um, One might ask, does this replace the therapist? And I think you can answer that, or does it augment what the therapist
Yeah,
tries to do?
there's no way, right? There's no way that this replaces anybody at all, right? It's a value add. I like the word value add to any type of relational practice, right? Anything that has any type of oversight of other individuals. If you can imagine, I guess I can give a scenario for this just to simplify it. If I am a private a practitioner of any sort, life coach, counselor of any sort, and I am going to bring on a new client. I don't even know if necessarily I can serve that client. I don't even know if I'm the right fit for him or her. I don't know if anything of that. I would need to have an introductory thing. And so if a person is scheduling with somebody, it's just a scenario and says, hey, I'm going to talk to you in 2 weeks for our assessment or to see if we're going to be a good fit. If you could use In.Sight, talk about some of the events that have been on your mind or talk about some of the things that you would like me to know or whatever the case may be, so that when they actually come in to get an assessment and get that initial meeting with somebody that's going to be working on their soul, on their psyche, right, on their actual psychology, right, then we want to say, oh, here's some of the narrative that I need to get across to you, sir or ma'am, so that you can better understand some of the things, because I don't really like talking about it. I don't even know how to say it out loud, to be honest. I don't even know exactly how to get it, but if you were sitting there texting, typing, or voice texting by yourself, and you were able to work through it and have a narrative that you could share about something that you normally would not be able to share with somebody in words, because the words would kind of fall. It's for that as well, right? Because therapy is a really sensitive area, right? Or any type of coaching, or where somebody has to put themselves at the right at the under at the service of another, right, to guide them. This is definitely meant to augment that relationship.
So, do you see people in human evolution, people today being less able? Is that part of the reason for In.Sight? Because people are becoming less able to look at their own lives, less able to properly self-evaluate than people were, say, 200 years ago or 100 years ago.
Yeah, I definitely don't think we're asking the right questions. I guess I would simplify it by saying that, right? A lot of us aren't, you know, we aren't questioning, we aren't asking ourselves. We aren't even asking ourselves. And if we do ask ourselves, maybe we don't ask. It's always about asking the right questions about life, right? Asking, how do I get here? How am I going to do this? How do I build this? How do I do that? And if we don't have that, I think we define it as awe, right? We define it as a certain wonder for life, a certain questioning for life, let us say, an interest in finding out the answer.
Mhm.
And there's a lack of interest in finding out the answer, of questioning. right? And I'm not saying everybody has this lack. You asked me an evolutionary question, so I gave you an evolutionary answer.
Okay. A lot of people were asking questions. How is this built already? Do you have a board? Do you have employees? Do you have funding at this point? What it's a lot of
Yeah.
work you've done already.
Yeah. So I'm actually part of in Ann Arbor, they have this thing called Ann Arbor Spark, right? It's a business accelerator slash innovation incubator. And when I moved out here, believe it or not, when I was driving my happy butt across the United States in a U-Haul, I looked it up and I was like, that would be a good fit for me to kind of try to get my idea into reality because it's a publicly funded organization. And yeah, they accepted me. I went in there, I went to some events, I did it naturally. You have to be socially social anthroposophy, right? You have to somehow take your wisdom and bring it into the world. You have to do it. You have to look up events. You have to go to the events. You have to talk to folks. You have to, introduce yourself. You have to give them your ideas. And this place, I actually just got selected. Well, In.Sight just got selected couple days ago, into another stage of this thing. And there's only going to be 4 of us, and it's a competition basically, for a startup, basically of their clients, of Spark clients who have made it, who have been working so hard. And so it's actually basically like another kind of step debut thing where it's a $25,000 prize, and there's only 4 of us. So I got a 1 in 4 shot. We got a 1 in 4 shot at this. But I've also been working with John, right? I've also been working with John Beck. I love to say it. He's been here for me, man. And I got here a year ago. I got in Ann Arbor about a year ago, last October. Okay. So a year and a half, last September, October. And so that's whenever I started showing up at the branch here. And then over this last year, I just made pards with the pards. I just seen who's there. I've been working with Kathy. I hang out with John. I get to talk. I get to see Mary, and I get to see everybody around the place, man. And it's really nice. It's really nice. And so I think
I'm
in terms
jealous.
of in terms of the
I don't
business.
get to see them.
Yeah, I know, I'm lucky, man. It's a lucky break, but it was also by choice, right? It's also by choice, right?
Yeah.
And but yeah, so in terms of the business aspect, I don't know. Yeah.
So some question though still is, are you already a 501(c)(3), a not-for-profit organization,
Yeah,
or
so I'm not a
what are
non-for-profit. What I've
you are?
actually created, right? And I'm not a
Yeah.
not-for-profit. Okay. So because this you have to think about this tool. I guess I didn't talk about scale as much in the presentation as I should have. The idea of scaling in a modern world, right?
Well, that's another question. How will you scale this?
Yeah.
Other
So
thoughts?
actually, what I'm set up as is a C corporation, right? A corporation, right? So it's actually a
Oh,
public. It's not. It's a member driven corporation. And
right.
so technically, right now, I'm the only shareholder. But I do have authorized shares. It's totally incorporated. It's all set up. I haven't obviously built out the administration, all these things. That's why I'm building In.Sight. And I didn't get to drop you guys the link. Maybe I could drop it in the chat before we go. But there's definitely a way to get involved with what's going on with us. Definitely set the steps for folks to be able to get involved if they want. And this is private, right? You guys are the first one. This is the debut. I've been working on this thing all my heart and soul, and all year. Everything that I have, I've been on this.
I can attest to that from the progress that I've seen from when you first mentioned it to now. It's
Yeah.
quite remarkable, quite remarkable. So, um, somebody asked about privacy protections, and I think you must be thinking about that. Where do you plan to go so that people that enter their data, it's not picked up by, shall we say, some foreign government or something that wants
Yeah.
to bribe you or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, so one of the main, I think maybe this goes back to the last thing we said about being a C corporation, right? So, just to at least talk to your question that you just asked, because we're talking about the owners here, right? We're talking about the people that are in control, right? And that's why I love that it's a citizen driven. This isn't necessarily, something that some, mental health institution is doing, or some of these guys over here that has some type of, this is a citizen led. Obviously I came from, you guys obviously know now. But I'm a person. And so what matters now is the owners, okay, is the shareholders. And I'm set up right now as a like I said, a C corp, so that I can have. Okay, so that has to do with the privacy. Now, I don't know if you guys want to know the technical aspects of how we can make sure to keep people's data private and anonymized in terms of nobody else getting it, but we're definitely not going to let any this is like a holy like thing to me. It's so big. So yeah, we'll definitely be thinking about all these things for everyone.
So a couple comments here. Somebody wrote that they're interested in testing the app when
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
ready. That's cool. And I think if you put into the chat also how they might get involved or,
Yeah, maybe could I just share my screen one more second? And I think it'll be the
sure,
easiest,
go
most
go
comfortable.
for it. Right now,
Alrighty.
you can do it.
Okay, we're back on there. And then this should be oops, present. And this should be active. I think here, let's just go right here.
That's all right. You can do it from
All right.
there. Right.
I got you guys. Yeah. So this is a landing page that I created specifically. Everyone
Can
can see,
you
right?
read out what that says, the landing page, In.Sight to
Own
be
your life.
what?
Up top. Oh, In.Sight
Yeah.
to be us. In.Sight to be.us.
Okay.
Yep. In.Sight to be.us.
And if you
Right.
go there, what happens? You get this page, right?
You're going to come to this page here, and I created this specifically. Actually, I created it specifically for this event, for you guys that are coming in, and that people that are interested, and so that you can kind of get, I have right here some more of those videos, like the one I showed you guys. I have right here my YouTube channel, some stuff that I created towards it, and then I have my LinkedIn profile here, and then right here I have joined the In.Sight Collab. Okay, and this is something that if you guys click here. You can sign up right here, right, and pledge now that you can. But if you guys click here, it's actually going to give you the option to join into this. I'm designing an In.Sight collaboration community here, and it's with. Luckily enough, I end up getting picked up by John Beck, man, as somebody that's really trying to serve and work in the right way towards Steiner's vision of cultural impulses and what we're trying to do with counterbalances here. And so the Being Human project is a pretty cool thing. But this one right here is its own thing within that. So it's neither here nor there. If you wanted to get in with In.Sight, you could come through this. This is the community where I'm at. And I have all kinds of stuff in here in terms of data, in terms of things you can look into, in terms of if you really wanted to see the research that I've done. I'm going to be posting it regularly, and we can talk about it. We can really talk about it. And so, and that's what it's about.
Is this a place that somebody who wants to participate in testing and working can reach you, or do you want to give your email address, or can they reach you through here?
Yeah, right here on LinkedIn. If you guys want it, if you guys want, yeah. All my information is definitely right here on this site. If you guys just go to insight2be.us, you'll be able to get in contact with me multiple ways.
Okay.
I don't know if that's easy enough. I think it's really simple. There's nothing really complicated about it. But I'm really hoping that people that are interested in testing it, here, let me stop sharing my screen. People that are interested in testing and giving feedback or playing a part.
Mm-hmm.
Amen. Okay.
Okay.
Because we're at this stage right now. We're at this stage right now that it's not, it's not going to make or break. It's not going to break us. Let's put it that way. If nobody does jump on, but if we can get some collaboration on what's going on here, it would make all the difference.
I'm going to read you a couple comments here. One says, to me, it seems like this could be a great tool to create collective intelligence or dialogical intelligence, an excellent way to use technology. And I think that's kind of the message you were giving.
Yeah.
And then your friend John Beck wrote, one can look at the pyramid vertically. One can also look at it on the horizontal level. The one sees the community leading far into the future.
Yeah.
Thank you, John. Let's see. I think I saw Another question. I think this is somebody that you know. I could never be prouder of my son's hard work and dedication to helping humanity. Thank you, Sabrina.
That's my mom, baby. You already know.
Well,
You already
all
know.
right. And there's other thank yous coming in right
Thank
now
you all too, man.
for your hard work. Bobby, I'm very touched by this dedication to an ethical technology and to take this AI, to take computers, to take smartphones, all these things that have had, and quite rightly so, a negative connotation, and to try to make them useful for humanity. So thank you for bringing all of this to us today.
Right, right.
And
Thank you, man.
this has been recorded, so the recording will be there. And before I close, let me just mention February 16th, not at 3 o'clock, but at 2 o'clock Eastern Time, Joachim Faust will be here, our speaker, talking about language in the age of artificial intelligence. So I hope you can all join us then on the 16th of February at 2 o'clock.
Cool, man. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, man.
Again, thank you, Bobby.
All right, guys.
All right. Bye, everyone.